Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We greatly appreciate your time. We just got the recording started and we are streaming live on YouTube as well. Thank you for being here today. We hope this is helpful for you as a starting point to assist you with salary and benefits negotiation. And we welcome, just by the way, all of our Georgia State alumni and friends of our organization and other alumni from other universities as well. So there are a lot of different challenges that come up and are totally understandable when it comes to negotiating for your salary and benefits. And we have a lot of, all of our clients that we've worked with since 2002, they give us a lot of different examples and reasons why, understandably, negotiating makes them nervous. Some people will tell us, for example, that they suffer from imposter syndrome. They don't feel as confident as they could be, or they feel like their success has been due to luck or, something else versus really being able to stand in and feel confident about their strengths and what they've achieved so far. Some people will tell us flat out, which is completely understandable too, that they just get nervous with negotiation. It feels like maybe conflict or really tense for them. And then some of our clients will tell us that they just are not sure exactly how to ask, what to say. And we actually had someone come to us several years ago who had literally not gotten a salary raise or increase in like 10 years. And she was just too nervous to deal with it and talk about it. So as a bottom line kind of starting point of advice here for today, is please know that your goal at the end of the day is to have an open, direct, two-way conversation about your salary and benefits. That's what we're going for. And if you can, as much as possible, set the stage for that type of conversation, the better off you're going to be, because it's going to take the pressure off of you. It's going to help you kind of say the right things in advance so that you feel more comfortable and that you're kind of letting them know that I want to have a conversation about this and I'm totally open to different options and discussing it. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to negotiate your way down. You can still ask for what you want, but having a direct, open kind of two-way conversation versus feeling like you say one thing, they say another thing, and that's it, is a much better way to approach it. The other thing to know and understand that managers expect negotiation. There are so many different statistics out there that demonstrate and show that most managers in any industry and across the board, unless, for example, it's a more entry-level position, or if they say up front, which sometimes they will, this is our salary range and there is no wiggle room there. Outside of those situations, they do expect negotiation. And if you take a look at this next slide, this kind of gives you a sense of what those statistics are and how common and normal these types of conversations can and should be. So just by way of our agenda for today, for the next 20 or so minutes, I'm Hallie Crawford. I'm a certified career coach, speaker, and author. My company is based in Atlanta, Georgia, where I am, but we have coaches in different parts of the country. And we work with clients all over the country and in some cases internationally as well. I've been coaching and training since 2002. So it's been a really long time. My kind of running joke is most of my gray hair, luckily for me so far, is underneath where it's harder to see. And I absolutely love what I do. Our coaches are very passionate also about helping people get what they need in terms of their career path, whether it's the right salary and benefits, all the way to finding something that's really fulfilling for them, a career path that plays to their strengths, that they can be successful in, but also fulfilled and get a sense of reward. So what we're going to talk about today is 10 tips to help you prepare and make the ask. We're going to give you some topics that you can negotiate along the way to be considering and consider like fair game, if you will. And as a quick reminder, admin-wise, you will receive a copy of the recording of today automatically. So just keep an eye on your email for that. And then if you'd like a copy of our slides, you can feel free to email us at admin@createyourcareerpath. Bottom line, if you respond to any of the emails that we have sent you and ask for the slides, we will get that email and we'll send it out to you. So there's 3 basic steps that we want you to consider and work through in order to prepare for and make the ask in the right way. Preparing for talking about salary and benefits, you need to be really clear on the left-hand side of this next slide what your goals are. Review your accomplishments so that you can stand in, and if you need to, say, because I have this expertise or experience, I'm asking for this amount, and you can reference those things specifically. You want to also conduct your research, and in some cases, you may want to prepare a quick PowerPoint. You do not have to do this across the board. This is going to depend on where you are in the negotiation process. If you feel like you really need to make a strong case for yourself because you're asking for more than usual or something like that, you could put together like a really quick document to support your argument. In most cases, we don't find that people need to do this. Just keep this in the back of your mind as an option if needed. The second thing we want you to do is anticipate those red flags. So not just prepare your case, but also think in advance about what their objections or concerns might be. Because if they bring those things up and you're not ready to address them or respond to them, you're going to get nervous and be in trouble. And then finally, being confident and really preparing yourself mentally too, if you will, to communicate effectively and assertively. So let's look at the first one. This is identifying your goal. This is going to be situation and career dependent based on what type of situation that you're in and what type of salary is reasonable for your position in your industry. So for example, you want to be thinking about, are you in the situation, obviously, of maybe getting a job offer, or is this for a raise or promotion? Is it that you need to negotiate within your team about, let's say, your workload, deadlines, or projects? There's lots of different types of negotiation that we may do in terms of our career. We may be negotiating just with our current employer, let's say, flex time or remote work, different kind of benefits. It could be that you want to ask for a new challenge or project for additional experience or education. So the first thing when you're identifying your goal is consider the situation, what's appropriate for that situation, what career stage you're in and what you're asking for as a result, and what would be needed next for you in order to get what you need, what you want, and to progress in terms of your career. As part of identifying your goals, we always like to have our clients consider all of the pieces of our career model. So if you take a look at this on the next slide, you'll see over here at the top left, compensation is listed here. And a lot of times this is what people are negotiating for, which makes perfect sense. But also consider whether you're in looking at a new job in an interview mode, or if you're negotiating with your current employer for something. Are there other things here that you would like to ask for? Cover all of your bases, consider all of the pieces of our model, because in some cases, in lieu of, the exact salary range or promotion or salary amount, I should say, or promotion that you're asking for, in some cases, you may be willing to wiggle a little bit on the money if, for example, you can negotiate for additional education or some kind of additional experience that would be helpful for you in the long run in your career. So think outside the box in terms of what you're negotiating for, okay? Now let's talk about our 10 tips to track, prepare, and ask. And as a reminder, if you'd like a copy of the slides, you can email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com. It's at the bottom of the slide here. You will get the recording automatically. So number one is to review and get really grounded in what your accomplishments are so that when you're making your ask, you feel more confident. It's a great idea outside of your resume to write down all of your accomplishments that you've had professionally, because what if there's something that you didn't put on your resume that could be relevant for your ask here, and something maybe that you forgot about that you want to bring up at this time. We find just as a side note, that it's really helpful for people to, on an ongoing basis, have an accomplishments document on their desktop. This is what we tell our clients, and keep track of testimonials from clients, measurable results. If you look at the right-hand side, classes, experience, because how many times have you gone or heard this before, right? To update your resume and you're like, oh, I can't remember every single thing. This is totally normal. So outside of your resume, keep an accomplishments document. And as part of this particular preparation on the bottom right-hand side of this slide, identify those top items that you want to reference during your negotiation, whether you keep them in your own personal notes as a reminder for the conversation, or like we said a moment ago, a PowerPoint or a quick document if you feel like you need to present something. The second thing that you obviously want to do, and you have already done if you've applied for this job and you're in the process of interviewing with them, is make sure all your materials are up to date. Make sure that everything on there has what you've accomplished in the past year. Get grounded in this as well, like review your resume and LinkedIn just one more time again to prepare yourself for the conversation so that, again, you're like, oh yeah, I do have all of this experience. It's a confidence booster as well. And we all know, I think, on the bottom left-hand side of the slide, that for each job that you apply to, and just by the way, I think it's valid if you're asking for a promotion and that's your specific situation and reason for coming here, I would update your resume and LinkedIn for that purpose as well, because you want to start demonstrating, what are your leadership strengths so that you can make the ask, feel more confident about it, but that you can even say, like, here's my most up-to-date resume so that you can see why I deserve this promotion, etc. Tip number 3 is to be smart and read the room of both your organization, your industry, and your career stage. Is this the right time to be asking, or should you wait till later in the year or early next year? Is your industry or organization thriving, or are they struggling a little bit? So you may need to tamper down your expectations, but say, look, if things get better in the next 6 months to 8 months, can we revisit this conversation at that time? Lots of different things we want you to ask for if you take a look at this slide. And when you are thinking about or trying to figure out when it's the right time to negotiate for salary and benefits when you're applying for or in interviews for a new job, you always want to do that. If you look at this bullet point here, when you are close to or getting close to them making you an offer, when this topic starts, coming up in your conversations, not obviously at the very beginning of the interview process. And then as part of this, reading the room, be prepared. If they come back to you with they can't meet you at your desired salary, for example, do you want to negotiate for something else in exchange for that? Flex time, remote work, maybe it could be a title change or a bonus, a hiring bonus, for example. So the bottom line with this tip is don't go in blindly and just assuming everything is perfect. Like, be smart about what's going on within your organization and industry. And if you need to adjust your expectations a little bit, or maybe your expectations could be higher than you thought because they're really thriving, for example. Tip number 4 to prepare for this is to conduct salary research. On the left-hand side here, we always want our clients to research the standard salary for both the desired position, the one you're interviewing for or asking for a promotion for, but also do your homework for your current position so that you can get a sense of where your company falls within your industry in terms of how you get paid and if your organization pays higher than standard or lower. You can use sites on the right-hand side like Glassdoor, PayScale, and Indeed, making sure that you're taking into account your location, your expertise, and number of years of experience. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics, it's bls.gov, is another great resource for salary comparison and research. You could ask other people at other organizations, like, is, I'm considering asking this amount for this particular position. Do you think that I'm being realistic about things? Is this the right range? Because it's awkward. We're not suggesting that you go to someone and say, how much money do you make, right? Because that's an awkward conversation and not exactly professional unless it's your best friend. But you can ask them instead, like, I'm thinking of this. Does that kind of make sense with what you think is industry standard, so to speak? So ask a mentor, ask colleagues at other organizations. We help our clients with this, doing that homework and research to help them prepare for the negotiation and make the ask as well. So feel free to contact us. It's the same email address. I always do a free consult with people first. So in terms of your salary research, some of the things that you can ask, or after you've conducted your research, some of the language you can use when you're making your ask is listed here. An easy question to ask if they haven't brought up the salary or benefits package yet is, what is the benefits package offered? Can I get more details about that? Another question that you can ask that is setting the stage again for that two-way conversation, as we said at the beginning, is there any flexibility in what is budgeted for this position? When you're researching or coming up with, I should say, your compensation, so that this helps you get a sense of what you might ask for next, include your benefits in there. How much would your health insurance cost, 401k, everything else? Now, it's important to know the laws in your state, because in most states, employers are not allowed to ask you what your current benefits are. Some will anyway, though, and you just want to be prepared for that question in case it's something that you're like, I'd rather answer the question as part of my negotiating strategy and having the conversation with them. So add up everything when you're coming up with your compensation that is current for you. And for example, remote work, if you're applying for a job that involves that, you need to make sure that you're demonstrating to them, this is why I know I can work remotely, what I've done in the past, etc. Okay. And in some cases, for example, you may be willing to accept a lower salary if they will allow you to work remotely certain periods of time. So one of our clients in Philadelphia, they were able to get within about $2,000 of the range that she was asking for, or the salary that she was wanting, and they couldn't go further with it. So instead she asked for, okay, I'll take this salary, but can I work from home once a week? Okay. So just do your homework, know what the rules and the laws are, and know what your current salary is worth, so to speak, too, in the market. Tip number 5 is to make sure that you consider and have other perks or options in the back of your mind that you would be willing to negotiate for or accept in addition to negotiating for the salary. There's several things listed on this slide here, lots of different options there. Don't just always see it as the money. Yes, the money is critically important and we totally get it, but we also want our clients to be negotiating for opportunities as well, like additional education, specific types of projects that they can work on that will get you that next promotion faster, for example, than you would otherwise. Make a list of priorities for yourself so that you're really clear on, these are the top 5 things that I want. I can negotiate for these other things. Remember the total package. And when you're thinking about your top line and what you would really want and desire, also think about your bottom line too. How low are you willing to go versus your, this is as low as I can go and I can't, accept this opportunity. So know your top and your bottom kind of range of salary and what your priorities are as well too. Tip number 6 is to make sure when you actually have this conversation that you do something to pump yourself up before the conversation happens. Be really confident. We know how important our attitude is as it relates to our actions. You know how much better you do when you feel really confident and engaged before an interview or a career fair or a networking event versus when you don't feel so good. And the majority of our clients, when they first come to us through coaching or for coaching, they will tell us that they are the biggest obstacles to success versus something external, just FYI. So you need to make sure that you're not getting in your own way. And there's several things on this particular slide here on the bottom right to think about that you could use or leverage to boost your confidence. Because again, like we said, we want to set the stage for a two-way conversation. So make sure that you're feeling really good so that you're ready to say the things that you need to say in order to make the ask. What boosts your confidence? Is it an affirmation? Is it dressing for the job that you want, which we tell people to do all the time anyway? Do you need to have some notes for reminders of what you want to say and what you want to ask for? As part of working on your confidence, make sure that you're leading with your value and look at the negotiation, as we've said multiple times, as a two-way discussion. So make sure that you're pushing aside any fears, negative thoughts. Practice this conversation with someone like us to help you improve it. Review your list of accomplishments, practice in front of the mirror, video yourself, especially if the conversation is going to be on video so that you can play it back and see how you're coming across. The things that you can say to set the stage for a two-way discussion versus something that makes you really nervous and it's one way and that's it, are things like we said earlier. Is there flexibility within what's budgeted for this position? I am open to discussing different options and would like to do so further with you as we progress here. I'm open to discussing this further. So for example, if they ask you for what your range is in the conversation during the course of the interview, you can say, this is my range, but please know I'm very open to discussing this further and would like to talk about it directly with you whenever it's appropriate to do so. That sets the stage for you to say, okay, I was really hoping for this, but I can accept this. And for them to be direct with you as well about what's possible. We know this can be nerve-wracking. So please, as we said, feel free to reach out to us to do a quick free consult call with me. It's an opportunity for you to learn about coaching. Mention that you come from one of our alumni or university partners, because we do give a discount for Georgia State alumni as well as the other universities that we partner with. And this email address is the same one as you can get the slides to. So feel free to write that down. And if you'd like to schedule a consult call, happy to talk with you about our services and how we can help. Tip number 7 is to identify and be really clear about what your leadership strengths are too. So as part of your salary negotiation, your interview process, your conversations about getting a promotion, we don't want you to just talk about, okay, I know this software, I know how to do data analysis or manage a budget, whatever it is. We also want you to discuss your soft skills, those leadership strengths that you have. Are you able to motivate other people? You take leadership roles in meetings. You're great at working remotely and leading teams remotely, for example. So mention those soft skills as well, because 9 times out of 10, when a prospective employer has you and someone else, even if that they're looking at to hire, even if you have a little bit less experience, but they think you're going to be a better fit personality and culture-wise for their organization, they're going to go with you. The other thing that we like for people to do during the course of an interview process, and in some cases this may be relevant for having a conversation about a promotion, is present or have a 30, 60, 90-day plan of what it would be like if they hired you. What would you be doing in those first 90 days? Because that gives them a picture of, this is what it would be like if I hired Joe, Jim, Sarah, whoever it is. They're picturing that. They're much more likely to hire you if you've got something like that in the first place to present to them. And they're able, again, to kind of visualize what it would be like if they hired you. In order to identify what your leadership skills or strengths are, this is just one example of a tool that we use with our clients. It's from Development Dimensions International. It's a highly regarded management consulting firm. If you're struggling with understanding what your leadership strengths might be and some of those soft skills, you can rate yourself in each of these areas to identify your top 3 areas of your strengths that you want to make sure that you're articulating during the course of your conversation. Tip number 8 is to prepare your presentation, so to speak. And I use this word a little bit loosely. So please know that I'm not saying I expect you to like have this PowerPoint for your, salary negotiation per se. You're standing up in front of a room. It's like that type of thing. But what I want you to have ready to go in case you need to provide it along the way are the items listed on this slide. Not just your resume, but in some cases you may want to reference, for example, at the bottom of this list, your StrengthsFinder results. You may need to reference your portfolio again. If you are a graphic designer, for example, a portfolio, so to speak, of your experience and skills. So bottom line, in terms of this particular tip, these are all things that we recommend job search wise, our clients have ready to go. And you can pick and choose what you may need to use or leverage during the course of your negotiation conversation or not, again, depending on the situation. Tip number 9 is to be clear on your ask. You know what your goals are. Be really clear about what you're asking for. There are some examples here about the language that you can use in order to make your ask. Is that within your range? Make sure that when you make your ask, be quiet and wait. Don't keep talking, which when you talk too much sometimes and it demonstrates or will show that you're either getting a little bit nervous and it can diffuse your ask a little bit. So make your ask and then wait for them to respond. There's suggestions here on this slide about, how you can bring it up if they haven't brought it up yet. And you also, what we recommend too, is that you ask for a range in terms of your salary. It can be up to $5,000. We don't recommend that it's more than that. Your range could be between $2,000 and $5,000, in terms of the span of what you're asking for. But give them a range so that, again, that's setting the stage for an open conversation and there's some wiggle room for them too. Tip number 10 is to practice. Practice dealing with those concerns they might have and weave those into the conversations that you've had during the course of your interviews and also, if needed, during the course of the negotiation. If they bring up you don't have as much experience in ABC, what are you going to say? If they're concerned about you demanding a higher salary than they are prepared to pay, you want to weave that into the conversations leading up to this so that their concerns haven't taken such a hold in their minds, so to speak, that they're too hard to overcome. So practice dealing with those red flags. Those are things that we can help you with. Tip number 10 as part of this is to practice your presentation. And we already said this a little bit earlier, but practice the conversation, the two-way conversation with a friend, family member, or someone like us, and get feedback from people on your nonverbals, how you're coming across. If you're coming across as confident, what's your tone and the cadence, and is the language that you're using the most effective language that you could use? And when you're actually conducting the meeting, make sure that you do tie your accomplishments to the value of the organization that you're applying to and their bottom line. Provide tangible results that you've achieved. Remember, I was able to, achieve X, Y, Z, and this is why I'm asking for this salary. Include testimonials and kudos along the way during the course of your interview process. And as we said a moment ago, be prepared to provide a range when they ask you what your range is. Don't make it personal ever. Don't bash your previous employer. And like we said before too, be quiet and let them respond. Don't talk too much because it can come across as nerves and also you're not allowing them to respond to you in the first place. And there are a few things that you can do if they're not able to provide you the salary or benefits that you're wanting immediately. And those are on the next slide here. So some things at the end we would recommend that you say at the end of your conversation with them are things like, okay, if we can't get this now, is there a probability that we could discuss this in 6 months? Is there an opportunity to have another conversation and based on my success and performance, we can revisit? Thank them for their time, ask them what the next steps would be in terms of continuing this discussion or in terms of the interview process. And if they make you an offer, and let's assume they do, it's okay to ask them for time if needed to consider the offer. Remember, you do not always have to answer right then. Please feel free, if you have additional questions you want to ask us, because we're at time for today, feel free to email us. I'm happy to answer. The same email address applies for the consult, the slides, and everything else. And I would love it even more so if you would share your action steps with me by emailing them. It could be building your list of priorities. It could be identifying your red flags. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone. We hope this was helpful as a starting point for you. Have a great rest of the day.